This is Chip Maxwell, and you're listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. Today, we are joined by attorney Colin Kastrick to discuss the recent legislative changes to Nebraska's transfer on death deeds that affect real estate. We'll also explore how a new bill allows for major tax savings by utilizing non-grantor trusts to pass on assets such as farmland, potentially helping you avoid probate and take advantage of new tax deductions.
Once again, joining me in the studio is our estate planning extraordinaire attorney, Colin Kastrick. How are we doing, Colin?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you back in. So we've had some changes around your office here recently. You guys are growing. You've added new staff. You've added several, some more legal professionals. What's going on?
Yeah, it's a good thing. We've added a couple more staff here, and so we're 6 strong now, which is good. You know, in the last year, we've added 4 people, and hope to continue to add people here and serve the Omaha community, and it's a good thing, right? It means business
absolutely.
is good, and we're trying to help as many people as we can.
That's a good sign of the quality of the work that you do, and why we've been blessed to refer you guys. And I want to disclose, you're not the only attorney we refer business to, but we do refer quite a bit to your firm. We do not share in revenue. We'll make sure we disclose that as well. Yeah. You are your own separate business, et cetera, but you do rent some space here in our office to see, our clients for convenience, which is nice. But speaking of, one of the things you help a lot of our clients and a lot of even me personally is here in Nebraska, we're one of about 24, 25 states, about half the states allow for what I call T.O.D., right?
Yeah.
T.O.D.D, transfer on death deed. So this is when it comes to real estate. You can basically avoid probate mainly. It's like a quickie probate, but you can basically transfer a house pretty quickly if you have this filed with the courts. But there's been recent changes in our legislature that changes maybe the verbiage of this. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's just the legalese, but just making sure that people aren't doing this on their own. You can always go online and try to find a form for something, for wills, for trust, for anything legal, right? You can go to LegalZoom.
Yeah, that always scares me. People are like, yeah, I Googled it. Yeah, I got a template for that.
ChatGPT and things like that. People are trying to get, obviously some of that might work, but most of the time clients don't understand what they're getting into here. And the biggest problem we see with estate planning is just titling correctly, right? Making sure that document you might think it says what you want to say, but it might be incorrect legally. And then something happens to you and your kids have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so, those transfer on death deeds are great. And I love, most clients, their goal is to try to avoid probate court, and good or bad, probate it's just time and money we spent better elsewhere. But what those transfer on death deeds do in Nebraska, at least, is put a beneficiary on your house or farm or real estate, and so what you can do, just like with your life insurance, you can put a beneficiary directly on your house to transfer it to your kids free of probate court.
Well, and that's really important because probate courts can get bogged down.
Mm-hmm.
And we have unfortunately, this is the reality. We have in this country over 4,000 baby boomers passing away every day. Now we have about 14,000 turning 65 this year every day. So a lot of them are rolling into their retirement age. But as those people pass away, that's going to continue for the next 10 years. There's going to be a rush of probate activities, right? So the courts are not staffed to correctly handle the volume because it's a very different volume from the years past. So that is going to slow this process down, right?
Yep. And so we're blessed right now in Nebraska. They're decently efficient. So probate's state-based, right? So it depends on where you live. And we're pretty lucky here that it has been pretty efficient compared to most states. But yeah, it's going to get bogged down here. And some of the states I talk to, I have friends in Arizona where there's a lot of baby boomers, obviously. It's a huge migration place, and they're like 2 years behind right now. And
so that's why it's so important that you do like a T.O.D.D. so your kids don't have to wait for a total, like if you were to pass away today and leave your house to your kids and they were to sell it, most people don't really keep mom and dad's house anymore. Those days are usually over. They're just want to get on the market, right? Mm-hmm. And if it takes 2 years before they can get free clear title, it could be a totally different real estate market. They may have liquidity needs. All kinds of problems can arise, right?
And they're paying for upkeep, taxes, insurance, all that stuff during that process. Yeah, these transfer on death deeds, they're not for everyone.
And paying probate fees and court fees and legal fees.
And publicity of everything. And while transfer on death deeds aren't the magic sauce for everything, obviously, but they're good for certain clients, and they make it a lot easier. They give the kids, they file a death certificate, houses in the kids' names, the kids deal with it, they can put it up for sale, fairly quickly after that.
All right.
So it really helps out with that kind of stuff.
If that's a concern, you should get a hold of Colin or attend the upcoming class. We have a estate and tax planning class coming up at the Midwest Learning Center August 19th. That's a Tuesday night at 6:30, and he'll be talking about this and so much more along with Mike Schutel, one of our advisors here at Retire Smart. They do a fantastic job with this class. Now, we're talking about passing assets on like the house. What we call the big beautiful bill, whether you think it's beautiful or not, it changed a lot of things, especially when it comes to transferring assets down a generation. A lot of folks have assets they're never going to part with. They're never going to sell. They don't need it for their retirement income. So, and I'm in this situation. So we have to start thinking, do I want to pass some of these assets down in a different form so I'm not worried about legislative changes in the future, a la using some form of trust, irrevocable trust typically. There's non-grantor trust, slats. There's a myriad of ways you can do this. Can you talk about why this bill gives an opportunity to lower the current taxation on such assets because of the SALT deduction on trusts?
Yeah. So what we've done is we've seen estate planning, the Big Beautiful Bill extended and made permanent, like we talked about, permanent for right now. Obviously, it can be changed, but permanent. A lot of those Tax Cuts and Jobs Act rules, and did some additions to the SALT deductions. And so we're talking about state and local taxes. And so what we can do is, instead of waiting until you die to pass on those legacy items, like you said, like farm ground, businesses, things like that, we can structure the assets, and we don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole here, but we can structure the assets in a way and give them during your lifetime to get you some current income tax deduction. So estate planning has shifted a lot from estate tax planning, which is the big 40% tax, to current income tax gifting. And so structuring those estate planning terms, we like acronyms. Like you said, we've got slats, idiots, all that kind of fun stuff. But setting up correct trusts, putting those assets into the trust to gift to the next generation, gets them out of your lifetime, gets them out of your estate, and lets you use those exemptions that are current. So we're kind of grandfathering you in. So whatever.
Well, and so you're using the value of that asset today.
Yep,
so
exactly.
For instance, I was recently sitting down with a client who has over $40 million worth of farmland through about 5 generations of roll-ups, if you will, and wants to start passing some of these separate farms on. And I'm like, you really need to redo your trust. And he's like, well, why would I do that? I just did it 3 years ago. I'm like, well, the rules have completely changed.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can take major advantage of this. So if those, and farm ground typically doubles in value about every 20 years or so. So and this person is young enough that he's got more than 20 years of life expectancy left. So if it's $40 million today, most likely going to be over $80 million that will be passing, he can gift. And he's married, so he could gift $30 million under this current law, basically a little over $30 million of that into one of these trusts or in a series of them.
Yep.
And whatever that grows to will never be susceptible to that estate tax again.
Yeah, we call them freezer trusts, or I do. And so it takes the value of it today, throws in that trust, freezes it. So when it passes to your kids, there's no estate tax.
And people don't realize how important this is because they don't think, well, I don't really have an issue. You might have $10 million in assets in a farm. But the rules can change. As we said, the permanent change that we got in this tax bill is until the next election, right?
Exactly. So we're just using the bill as it is right now. And so if the next administration lowers it down from $30 million to $5 million, we've already got that out of our estate. So we've used it as it is. Plus, like you said, getting some income tax deductions if you structure it right as well.
Well, and that's just it too. So if you have income producing property, a la the farm ground that maybe you're just cash renting, it could be appropriate to do this type of planning. I know a client that we are working with, one of the advisors that owns multiple rental properties in a series of LLCs. And we talked same thing. We could structure those because all those properties are now paying property taxes, right? Well, with this new SALT deduction applying to each individual trust, we can get that $40,000 deduction on the property taxes in multiple trusts. So in other words, say somebody had $10 million of rental properties, you could do $2 million, $2 million, you could have 5 different trusts, each one of them fully deducting the $40,000 in property taxes. That saves
separate amount,
a ton of money for that client, probably 6 figures right there, just from a little bit of legal paperwork and couple $1,000 probably to you and your firm, right?
yeah, get it set up right. But yeah, absolutely. You got to use the tax law while it's here because we don't know when it's going to go away. And
you don't know what you don't know. So again, if this is something that would be important to you, I highly encourage you, basic estate, extremely valuable estate, to come to this class that Colin will be leading. It's called Estate and Tax Planning for Retirement, Tuesday, August 19th at the Midwest Learning Center, but you must register. Go to our website, click on the events tab, or call the office, 402-369-7777. Colin, we are out of time. Thanks for stopping in the studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. If you want to learn how to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, visit retiresmartpodcast.com. And make sure to subscribe to keep up with new episodes every week. Colin Kastrick and Kastrick Law LLC are not affiliated with Retire Smart and were not compensated for his appearance or any implied endorsement. However, Kastrick Law is a tenant of, receives referrals from, and shares clients with Retire Smart.